host of the Gridiron.
All right, baby, welcome to the Gridiron. If you can give this video a thumbs up or maybe share this video, that would be absolutely freaking phenomenal. If you subscribe to my channel, thank you. Please go down below, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell icon. That way next time I go live, if I put a video out, you'll be notified, and it's free of charge. It's totally free of charge. But if you are subscribed to my channel, thank you. If you want to help support my channel, in the description box below, very top link takes you to my membership page. I got 3 different membership levels. Each one has their own little perks to them. So if you want to help support my channel, it would mean so much to me. And once again, thank you in advance. And then finally, just underneath that, there's another link. It takes you to my Facebook group. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. We have over 9,500 members in the group. It's doing simply marvelous, might I add. Basically, if I'm alive and breathing and if I got internet access, I am putting stuff in this group darn near 365. It's called the New York Giants, the Gridiron. It's my Facebook group. Please join it. You will not be dissatisfied. I promise. All right. Well, it's getting closer. They got 2 games left to go. And, whew, well, I'll tell you what. I can't wait for this season to be over. It's just 1 week after the other. Well, things are is that you can't tell that the coaches and the players and the organization, all that, they're going out there to win a football game, So the problem, the shame of it, at least for most of us anyway, is that the most, as the season's gone along, it's just been absolutely horrible. Lost 10 games in a row. So the only way for this to get even worse would obviously, these final couple of weeks would be to, they were to win a game, quite possibly, take us out of the quarterback market, if you will. If we don't win a game and slide down a few spots, 4 or 5 spots or so, and take us out of the quarterback market, there's obviously plenty good other players, but, it'd be interesting to see what the Giants were to do. Take a flyer on a quarterback in the second round, go out after one of those, bridge quarterbacks. I'll have to wait and see. But right here, as far as going forward, and, you got to agree with them, right? A lot of it all starts, this is the Dan Orlovsky, right? Like him, love him, leave him, whatever want. One thing he came out under this article here, he talks about is that he believes that obviously the key to fixing the Giants, obviously he did bring this up as well too, okay, was, they need a quarterback. But besides that, like if you look at the thumbnail right here, right, what we got going on here, I'm not talking about Tom Brady. What do we got here? The trenches, right? And when the Cowboys were really good, obviously, this, I mean, they're just, obviously Dak's not there, so that hurts them. But I mean, like with the Eagles, right? And once again, it's always a little difficult to sometimes include the Eagles sometimes, because you look at it like they have one of the best offensive line coaches in all of football, period. If they had one of our coaches or one of the coaches, Bobby Johnson or something like that, how would their offensive line be? They've spent some good premium, right? Some good draft capital on offensive line, and they've gotten good return out of it. Jason Kelsey, right? Was a later round pick. Obviously, he's not on the team anymore. But I mean, they've gotten lucky because Mekhi Becton is staying healthy. Right. One thing he couldn't do when he was with the Jets. I said, I don't know if it's because he's playing on grass now instead of the turf. Don't know. But he's performing very well. But that's also because they have a good offensive line coach. Very good offensive line coach. But I mean, you got to remember a lot of times also one of the biggest problems we had, like with the Cowboys and with the Eagles, was the trenches. Right? We did not control the trenches, plain and simple. What you go back to '86, right? We didn't have Benson, Ard, Oates, Godfrey, and Nelson. Boom, there's your Fab Five, and obviously the other one, of course, you want to put the tight end in there, of course, would be Bavaro. But nobody super sexy. Nobody, I mean, they just got the job done. But they were able to control the trenches, right? And obviously, of course, our defensive front, obviously with Lawrence Taylor, and we were just able to control. I mean, you got the two bookends. You got Carl Banks on one side, Lawrence Taylor on the other. Now, whether you had Burt in the middle or you had Howard in the middle, right? But you had George Martin, you had Leonard Marshall. So we had the trenches. It all starts in the trenches. If you can win the trenches, right, you can do a lot of things. Now, a little bit before I read this article, I just want a little bit is that with the Colts coming up this weekend, I think I heard Anthony Richardson threw the ball like 13 times last week or something like that. Didn't get a lot of yards, but their running back ran for over 200 yards, so they can control the trenches. So this is going to be a tough one. I mean, we're not sure what the scumbag Eagles are going to do for the final game of the week. If they're going to, if they have everything wrapped up, the number one, if they win the division and all that stuff. If they can't move up or down in the playoffs, we're not exactly sure what they're going to do, especially with Saquon. I mean, because see, Sirianni's just a straight up scumbag. So you're not sure what the guy who'll get more jollies from running up the score against the Giants and getting Saquon about 900 yards rushing in this particular game. See how many touchdowns he can get against the Giants, or benching his whole team and putting the 39 stringers in there, and hopefully the Giants win the football game so the Giants slide out of the quarterback market. So you're not exactly sure how scumbag Sirianni is going to play the game. But, I mean, there's a good chance the Giants might face a couple. I mean, obviously, you go back in just a couple of weeks, right? We had to play the Ravens, right? So we had some really, really, so we had to play Saquon again. So the Giants, went up against some really good running backs this season, right? Every now and then we had a good game against in the run defense, but for the most part, it's not been very pretty. I'm sure a lot of it has to do also with sexy, but you'll notice, I mean, remember in the beginning, our defensive, I mean, we were leading the league in sacks. I'm like, man, geez, wow, we're good. Of course, obviously with sexy hurt, but I mean, you don't hear us getting sacks anymore, right? I mean, control the offensive line, defensive line, whatever, you can control the game. So it all starts in the trenches, right? And so Dan Orlovsky brought as his article here. He brings up, and it's a good one. It's a good point. He also said, once again, he also talks about the fact that the Giants do need a quarterback. But, I mean, it's hard just to say, draft some offensive linemen and you're good to go. I mean, but we've been drafting offensive linemen and we've not been good to go on the offensive line, right? Obviously with Evan Neal, John Michael Schmitz is, for second round center has been, he's had some good points, had some good days and all that, but he's had some issues as well. Zudu, McKeithen, it's just not like just draft some centers and put them in there and you're good to go. Or draft some offensive linemen, we're good to go. It's a little bit more than that. So Dan Orlovsky has to say here. All right. One key to fixing the Giants. The Giants' woes would be Dan Orlovsky hits the nail on the head regarding New York Giants' biggest problem in recent years. I mean, obviously also that, I mean, you start thinking about it, right, is that, if we were able to control the offensive line, what if Saquon might have done, right, for us? I mean, look what he's doing with the Eagles, right? Now, so as good and as productive as Saquon had been for the Giants, he could have obviously been even that much better if we had an offensive line. So maybe Dave Gettleman wasn't off too far. Just our problem, just not being able to fix the offensive line, made things even worse, right? If the Giants aspire to become a powerhouse football team like they were for most of Tom Coughlin's era, it's important that they focus on one area in particular to make that happen: the trenches. And this is another one of the reasons why I would absolutely love to see. Whether the Giant, obviously, if you're drafting somebody, you just can't. Oh, in the second round we're going to take a defensive tackle, and then in the third round you can't do that. You can't be reaching, can't be grabbing, right? You got to have to, the guy. If as of right now, second round we're picking 33rd, right? So there has to be a defensive tackle worthy of the 33rd pick. But as I said, I'm kind of hoping, that they get themselves a defensive tackle to put next to Sexy Dexy to shore up, hopefully shore up that defensive front a little bit better, right? Let's not get a defensive tackle to draft a nice low guy in the low rounds to put next to Sexy when Sexy's in his 17th season in the NFL and he's on his way to retirement. Let's not do that. Right, let's get him when Sexy's at the peak. Because he's going to start leveling off. Right, because next season's going to be his 7th season in the NFL. Now, one of the nicest things, maybe the best things that happened to him this season in a lost season was he got hurt because now he has less. Where he has less tread taken off of his tires. So next season he shall have more tread left on his tires because he didn't spend the last, and I'm an idiot, I can't remember exactly how many games he missed, but he missed a large chunk of this season. So his body, the wear and tear on his body won't be there. He's going to fix his elbow. Next season rolls around, hopefully he'll be good. And you still always have to watch his snap count. The guy just can't. Dexter, you're going to play 100% of the snaps. Go get him, Tiger. No, that's not the way it happens. So you have to, not modify, but keep an eye on his snap count and all and everything. You got to give him those veteran rest days and all that, which Dable does, which is really a fantastic idea. But we need to get let's get somebody in there like Leonard Williams. We had the one season where we had Dalvin Tomlinson, Leonard Williams. When we first got Leonard Williams from Gettleman, right? We had Dalvin Tomlinson, we had Gettleman, and we had Sexy Dexy. Now, of course, Sexy was not as good then as he was now. A lot of that might also have to do with the Godfather, right? Our defensive line coach helping Sexy out, right? But that was one of the last times that kind of, we did pretty well against the run. Our run defense wasn't too bad. Now, Dalvin Tomlinson was not going to get you 10 sacks, but he was good against the run. Sexy Dexy, is good at consuming blocks, and we got Leonard Williams in it too. So that 1 year, it was 2020. Because we got Dalvin in 17, I believe it was, 17, 18. So 2020, that one particular year when we had those guys on the front wall there, our run defense was not too bad. Right? So it just, unfortunately, our coaching was bad, because we had Judge there. Such is the opinion of the ESPN analyst Dan Orlovsky, who told Kevin Clark that the Giants' shift away from building up the offensive and defensive lines has not helped the team break free from the doldrums since they last won a Super Bowl in 2011. At the end of the day, you have completely lost sight of organizationally who you've been, Orlovsky said, acknowledging that the Giants also need to find a franchise quarterback. I remember watching the Giants as a kid. The name that constantly comes to mind is Rodney Hampton, and I remember their ability to run the football. And remember, every year, Rodney had 1,000 yards every year. 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards every year. The name that comes to mind is Brandon Jacobs. For me, those guys, and defensive ends Justin Tuck and Osi Umenyiora. So I just think that to fix the Giants, they have to rebuild the lines of scrimmage. Orlovsky is spot on with his take. Under general manager Joe Schoen, the Giants have moved away from building from the inside out via the draft and have emphasized drafting skill position players whose success often heavily depends on the guys in the trenches. From an offensive line perspective, Schoen, who didn't draft a single player from the trenches on either side of the ball this past draft, has selected 4 offensive linemen. Now he didn't draft, that's true, but you gotta the guys he did draft, he did a very good job of it, very good job. But the 4 offensive linemen he has drafted were John Michael Schmitz, Evan Neal, Azudu, and McKeithen. Right, those 4, Schmitz, who hasn't quite blown anyone's doors off, no, he's not. Seems to be the most stable of the group in terms of having a starting job, which is true. McKeithen is no longer with the team, and Azudu and Neal are trending in the wrong direction. Defensively, it's been worse. The Giants have drafted 2 down linemen, DJ Davidson and Jordan Riley. While Davidson got some starting snaps this year, Riley was a healthy scratch earlier in the year until injuries opened the way for him to contribute. Giants have instead tried going the veteran route to address both sides of their trenches, having signed John Runyon Jr., Jermaine Illuminor, Greg Van Roten, Aaron Stinney, Austin Schlotman, however you want to pronounce it. They signed Nacho, Armin Watts as veteran options on the defensive side. The veteran route, however, has not always been fruitful. The Giants' offensive line, which started in the middle of the pack for the first few weeks of the season until injuries started to rip the unit apart, is currently ranked 24th according to Pro Football Network. The site also notes that the line's pressure rate against the blitz is 26th, and the pressure rate against 4 rushes or fewer ranks 29th, which is horrible. During the 2004 to 2011 seasons, when one could say that the Giants last had solid trench warriors on either side of the ball, the Giants made 5 postseason appearances, winning 2 Super Bowls. They have also finished first in the division in 3 of those seasons. They also had their franchise quarterback, but you also notice kind of what he was talking about is after that was over, once the offensive line started getting old and some of the guys started retiring and everything, even the fact that we had Eli, it made it very difficult. We didn't win the division. We went to the playoff one time with Eli after the 2011 Super Bowl. Right? Giants' recent approach toward building the trenches has contributed partly to the team's downfall, and Orlovsky believes has caused the franchise to lose sight of its identity. I think the Giants lost sight of what made them the Giants and what was their calling card when they actually were a good football team. And they would go on some of those runs. They could control football games on both sides of the ball, which is huge. Yes, you got to get yourself a quarterback, but you have to rebuild your line. I remember David Deal and Chris Snee, and that's why they were at their best. They don't have those guys anymore. So we could talk about all the pretty pieces, but the Giants organizationally should be in a line of scrimmage organization, and they haven't been, which is true. A lot of one of the things is that, has happened, especially like with the Eagles. I mean, you just look at the Eagles, you just beat this year in and year out. And, one of the constant things is that they have control of the line of scrimmage. Right? But whatever it was a couple of years ago when they had 17,000 sacks, they had 4 or 5 guys that had multiple digit sacks. I mean, they were bringing guys in off the bleachers, out of the seats. The guys had double digit sacks. It was just crazy. So we had a hard time stopping them on defense because of the pressure they could cause on the defensive side of the ball. Then, of course, look what they're doing with Saquon Barkley, right? And they're controlling the offensive line, right? And Saquon's having the best year of his career, right? And I said, like with the Cowboys, I remember all those years, and they had that good, that maybe the best. They were always the top 2 or 3 offensive lines in football, right? They're not that anymore. And, the record's really showing it. But also on the defensive side of the ball. Remember when we lost 40-0 to them opening day last season. Right? I mean, how many sacks they had? It was one of the, I can't remember what the Cowboys' name was, but yeah, it was true. There was a camera behind the Cowboys bench, and it was toward the end of the game. And one guy, I said, I can't remember the Cowboy who it was, but he was pointing to his friends. It was like the Oprah Winfrey show. And you get a sack, and you get a sack, and you get a sack, and I get everybody gets it. It was true. Daniel Jones went back to pass, and as he's dropping back to pass, there's like 13 guys on top of him. How are you supposed to win a football game that way? You can't. So, I mean, Dan Orlovsky is I mean, as I said, you draft banks, right? You get, obviously Malik Neighbors and all. Now, Shane and Dable and all that, whatever. They did try their first year. Obviously, trenches, right? Kayvon and Neal. You kind of hoping that, I mean, Kayvon obviously is not a total bust, obviously. He's had some nice moments and all, but his pick 5, you would kind of hope get a little more results out of him. Sometimes you'd like to see him take over some games and stuff. And he's had a moment here or there where he's had some very nice games, but for me, they're very few and far between. Right. And of course, Evan Neal, pick number 7. Oh my God. So they did try in the trenches, right? I mean, these past couple drafts are the pretty stuff. I mean, you need a cornerback. Right, we got ourselves a wide receiver, obviously Malik Neighbors, but we it all starts in the trenches. Really starts in the trenches. So he's spot on. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants do, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and on the defensive side. To help shore up that run defense. Because, boy, I tell you what, it's very embarrassing. And the other team could just run at will on you. Really, really embarrassing. It really is. So.